Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're setting off on a seriously fascinating journey. We're going to look at a practice that is literally older than recorded history, yet somehow managed to capture the absolute consensus of the modern world. We'll be zooming way out to look at massive, record-breaking global events, and then we're going to zoom all the way in to look at microscopic, neurological, clinical trials. We're diving into the science, the scale, and the soul of yoga. Here's our roadmap for today. First, a global phenomenon. Second, the ancient origins. Third, the significance of June 21st. And finally, the science of yoga. 35,985. That's exactly how many people gathered in New Delhi back in 2015 for the very first International Yoga Day. In a single session, they set a Guinness World Record for the largest yoga class ever held. And the participants represented an astounding 84 different nationalities. I mean, talk about an unprecedented moment of global unity. But before we go any further, what does the word actually mean? Well, yoga is derived from the ancient Sanskrit root yuj, which simply means to join or to unite. At its core, it's not just about twisting yourself into a human pretzel, right? It fundamentally aims to achieve a harmonious union between your physical body, your mind, and your deeper consciousness.
Okay, let's dive into part one, a global phenomenon uniting the world.
So how exactly did a super-specific ancient practice capture the consensus of the modern bureaucratic world? Well, it started in September 2014 when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi pitched the idea of a dedicated yoga day to the United Nations General Assembly. And what happened next was actually historic. The proposal was endorsed by a staggering 175 member states. This led to UN Resolution 69/131, officially locking in June 21st as the International Day of Yoga. Honestly, getting 175 countries to agree on anything is an incredible testament to just how universally appealing this practice really is. You might be wondering, why do major global health bodies care so much? Well, the World Health Organization actively supports yoga because of its proven preventative health benefits. To put that into perspective, non-communicable diseases, like cardiovascular issues, cancer, and diabetes, account for over 80% of premature deaths in some regions of the world. Yoga directly combats physical inactivity and stress. It gives us a really powerful, accessible tool to lower heart rates, reduce anxiety, and mitigate these severe global health risks. Moving right along to Section 2, the ancient origins, tracing the roots. All right, now that we've seen the modern global impact, let's rewind the clock a bit. Thousands of years, actually. Where did this wellness practice originate? Yoga's evolution traces back over 5,000 years to the Indus-Saraswati civilization in northern India. The very first written mention of the word appears in the Rig Veda, which is one of the oldest known texts in the world. But it wasn't until the classical era that the sage Maharshi Patanjali actually systematized the practice into a structured discipline through his foundational Yoga Sutras. You know, here in the West, we usually just picture the physical stretches. But traditionally, the practice is vastly broader than that. It's broken down into 4 main types. Karma Yoga focuses on selfless actions. Bhakti Yoga is all about devotion. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge and deep self-reflection, and Raja Yoga is about the strict control of the mind and body. So the physical stretching we typically think of, that's really just one small piece of a much larger philosophical puzzle. Which brings us to Section 3, the significance of June 21, nature meets lore. Out of all 365 days in the year, why did the UN specifically pick June 21st? It's actually this beautiful mashup of astronomical science and ancient lore, 2 sides of the same coin. Scientifically, June 21st is the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. Earth's axial tilt is at its absolute maximum toward the sun, giving us the longest day of daylight, which symbolizes vitality and renewal. Mythologically, this exact transition is known as Dakshinayana. Indian lore states that on this very day, Lord Shiva, known as the Adiyogi or the first yogi, acknowledged the 84 years of intense dedication from his 7 disciples and finally began imparting the wisdom of yoga to humanity. And finally, Section 4, the science of yoga, microscopic benefits. Now we're zooming all the way in. We're going from the global scale straight down to the micro level to look at clinical proof of how yoga literally changes our brains. To understand this, let's look at a specific clinical trial published in the National Journal of Physiology, Pharmacy, and Pharmacology. Researchers took 100 healthy medical students aged 17 to 23, a demographic that is basically fueled by pure stress and caffeine, and monitored them over a 12-week intervention period. So what did they actually do? For those 12 weeks, the experimental group engaged in a highly actionable 30-minute daily routine. And honestly, this is something you could easily replicate at home. It started with 4 minutes of Surya Namaskar, or sun salutations. Then, 19 minutes of various asanas, or postures like the lotus pose. That was followed up by just 1 minute of a focused breathing technique called Super Brain Yoga. And they wrapped the whole thing up with 6 minutes of Shavasana, the resting corpse pose, to integrate the practice. And this brilliantly illustrates the results. They were absolutely striking. When the researchers assessed the students' memory, attention, and concentration before and after the 12 weeks, the data showed a massive, statistically significant improvement for the yoga group. I mean, we're talking a p-value of less than 0.001 for attention and concentration. Their ability to focus and process information quickly just skyrocketed compared to the control group. But what's the why here? Why does stretching and breathing make you sharper and more focused? Well, the researchers noted that yoga actively engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which effectively puts the brakes on your body's stress response. It increases the sensitivity of your postsynaptic membranes, helping your neurons communicate faster. It even promotes something called gyrification. That's the physical folding of the cerebral cortex, which makes your brain far more active at forming memories and making decisions, all without physically exhausting the body. So we've traveled from a record-breaking crowd of thousands in New Delhi, back to the ancient texts of the Rig Veda, and all the way down into the microscopic folding of the cerebral cortex. With 5,000 years of ancient wisdom and rock-solid modern clinical science basically saying the exact same thing, I'll leave you with this to ponder. What is stopping you from uniting your mind and body today? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.